We just wanted to share our experiences with you in our trip to Haiti, the 4th of January through the 11th of January. Barring technical glitches, which I'm sure there will be, we're going to try to get through this. This is my change. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for the support you gave us as we were gone. Prayers, cards. Some of you wrote cards that we received a mail call every evening. It was cards of encouragement. We want to thank you for those. We also want to thank you for your financial support. Some folks really stepped up and helped us out a lot, and we want to just say thank you. I'm going to start, and we're going to play tag team as we go through this. There are pictures. You cannot understand Haiti unless you see it, smell it, and taste it. And hopefully through these pictures it will help you do that. This is the crew we had. We had six, I think there was actually 16 of us. I don't think my daughter's in that picture. She must have been taking it. We left Cincinnati about 5 o'clock in the morning and got to Haiti about 2:30 in the afternoon. And this is the crew with ourselves and the crew from Sherman Christian. The gentlemen on the first row are our interpreters. You didn't go anywhere unless you had somebody to interpret for you, because our French Creole wasn't very good, to say the least. So they let those people go. But this, the lady, the second, the right, I guess it is, in the turquoise shirt. That's the principal of the elementary school there that we stayed near, and she is the operator of an orphanage for girls right in the same neighborhood, and she so happens to be the daughter of the gentleman who established the Haiti Outreach Ministries. A little bit about Haiti. Haiti has 11 million people, a landmass that's 4 times smaller than Kentucky, but that's so given. 11 million people, 4 times smaller than Kentucky. The average daily wage is $2 a day. 65% of the people are under 25, and 2/3 of the workforce is unemployed. Not good. Port-au-Prince is the capital of Haiti. There's 2.3 million people live there, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. 65,000 people per square mile. 65,000, that's a bunch of people in a small space. And think about a city the size of Chicago with no sewer. No sewer. Everybody goes to the bathroom, but they don't have sewers. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and we were in the poorest city in the Western Hemisphere. They don't have running water, sewer, garbage pickup, public schools, reliable police protection, good roads. I saw 3 stoplights in that whole city the whole week we were there. And no dependable electric service. Their electric service is, you take a piece of baler wire and put it up without the little barbs on it. That's most of their electric service to their houses, and they fix that themselves. I don't know how they keep them getting electrocuted. This is Port-au-Prince. We went up on top of a mountain on this lookout, and that's Port-au-Prince. It's pretty up there. If you can see that closer, you will see 3 high-rise buildings. I mean, like 8 or 10 stories. The rest are 1 or 2 stories at the most. Back towards the green spot, if you can see that towards the ocean, right on this side of that is where we were partially all in that right-hand side at these 3 different locations in Port-au-Prince. It's pretty from there, but it gets ugly later. Okay, you guys jump in. This is our poverty pictures. This is what we saw when we went through. This was taken from the top of one of the elementary schools. Charlie and I went up there, and we could see the whole neighborhood.
Well, it's hard to describe. I mean, you think poverty around here, but you see that and you think, my gosh, does it get any worse? And every time you would turn a corner, it would get worse. This is out by the dump. Our dump here is immaculate compared to what they have. It's just acres and acres of garbage. There were people that lived right there And that's what they live in. It's sticks with plastic or a tarp or sheet metal, anything they can find to make a shelter out of. And this was a creek that ran right along the dump, and I don't know what was in it. I wouldn't walk out in it for nothing. I don't know what you would catch. Probably stuff they don't have names for yet, but it's, like I said, every time you thought, well, it can't get any worse, then you'd see something and it would. So. Again, just more poverty and garbage and stuff.
Yeah, it was unbelievable to see. And their houses are made out of cinder blocks, and even those half of those are unfinished because they run out of money, and then they're living off in who knows where under.
You notice they're basic 2 rooms and a porch. There's no glass in the windows, bars if anything, and they have great big huge metal doors. All the doors are made by the same company, I guess, because they all looked alike. And if they can, they will put a barbed wire fence or a wall, if they're fortunate, around their home. And when we say we build a home, basically this is what we built. This is running water.
Yeah, literally running water.
I tell you what, that killed me. We were working on a house there by that creek, by that filth. Pigs running around, chickens running around, goats, there's all kinds of goats. And we walked past where nobody has running water, and you wouldn't drink it if it was there. There's a cistern about as far as from here to the front of the Baptist church. And that's where this little girl toted the water for their home. And that's what you'll see everywhere. You'll see people. I've never seen so many people. But people, the ladies particularly, would have these 5-gallon buckets, and they'd balance them on their head, and you'd see them carrying those to their house to cook with, to wash with, to whatever. What's that, Ben?
I wasn't there.
You're lucky. That's a bathroom. I said they didn't have any sewers, but they do have these, I don't know what you call them, they're just wells that they dump their waste in, and that was the bathroom on one of the houses that we started work on. Most of them don't have that. Go ahead.
Oh, you can go for it.
These are dirt cookies. And these are actually made out of, they said, salt and a little butter and mud. This is what they fed their kids when they got hungry, to stem the hunger pains. Now you can imagine taking your kid home and say, we're going to go out and make dirt cookies, and you're going to eat them. And they let them dry in the sun, and they chewed on them, and I guess that stemmed the hunger pains. Now that would break your heart.
So what did we do when we got there, other than be totally amazed at the poverty? We carried gravel and concrete blocks to 2 houses. We started to work on 2 different houses. And our job was the grunt work. They hired, when HOM and Sherman decided to go, they said, well, we're going to build a house. And the houses would cost somewhere around $6,000. That money is taken up for local artisans that know how to lay block. I'm sure we wouldn't do a very good job. And how to do some of the finishing in the inside of the house. So you had those guys there that would do that. But the rest of the money is spent for gravel to fill in the inside of the houses to bring the floors up to an even level, and a little bit of rebar, and for sand and for concrete mix. And so our job, they dump it in the middle of the road. And you had to take 5-gallon buckets, and you had to tote the 5-gallon buckets in a bucket brigade of either dirt or sand or whatever to get it there. We painted the interior of a couple of houses and for the orphanage study room. We put a metal roof on a house. I have never seen it. It's galvanized something.
They called it metal, but I don't know. You could tear it with your fingers.
And you think about it, that's in a hurricane zone. I mean, and they tied it on with screws. It was crazy. We helped prepare a meal for 175 Haitians for a Sunday afternoon outreach. At each one of these churches we'll talk about here in a minute, they're doing this thing. They give their parishioners, the people who come to church, a little ticket, a little cardboard thing. And they, on a given Sunday, they will go out and they will give that ticket to people who don't come to church. And then they will prepare a meal and have those people come in, buy a ticket, and put them in the congregation, and they'll feed them the meal. And that's an outreach. Pretty good idea, really, because these people are starving to death. And so when you say prepare a meal, we didn't get the beans and the corn out of the can. They had, I don't know what they called them, but beans that looked like peas, but you had to hull them, a whole herd of them for 175. And then you had rice.
Had to pick the rocks and bugs out of it.
Yeah, bugs and rice, out of that. And then you all peeled potatoes. That was great. I love that.
Yeah.
Those were the dullest knives ever.
What? The dullest knife ever. Well, they gave it to you on purpose.
No.
But anyway, we'll see a picture of that later. But, you know, that was a great outreach. A great outreach. All right, Denise. We went to all the school classrooms and delivered treats for the kids. Treat. A treat is a piece of bubble gum. And you had thought you'd given them $1 million. We gave them a bookmark and a piece of bubble gum, and they smiled all day long.
Yeah.
Each night we had a devotional time, and we got together as our team, and we talked about our highs and lows for that day. And then finally, we took the Haitians to the beach. What do you think? Oh, you all went on a trip and you went to the beach. Well, we put our life in our own hands. We drove to the beach. He'll tell you about that in a minute. And you saw, it just wasn't in the cities. Everything was poverty-stricken. I mean, you just can't imagine how poor these people are. Okay, y'all got to do, Abe, you hadn't said a word. Now, you got to help us out here.
This is the first day at the first work site. The gravel was out in the middle of the road, and we towed it back with our 5-gallon buckets back to the back and back to where the compound was. And we didn't get to finish that house because this gang showed up and wanted money, but we did get finished some other projects during the week, so that was good.
What he's mentioning there, about the first day, we went out there and we were bucket brigading this stuff into this house to level out the floor. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everything stopped. I was on the other end of the line. I don't know, Charlie, were you out there?
No, I was on the other end.
And all of a sudden, the whole thing stopped. And we said, well, what's the deal? We thought we was having a break or something.
People are slacking.
Yeah, I need more buckets. But this guy and his buddy came up, and they were giving us a hard time. Come to find out, they were the head monkey gang member for that area. And the interpreter talked to them, and they were rattling back and forth. And come to find out, later, the interpreter's uncle was murdered by this guy. And so what his deal was, he wanted a payoff, either, you know, so they could come and we could come and work. But we're building a house for some lady and her kids who were right there. And we finished that day, and we did not go back because the organization says we don't pay bribes, because if you do that for one, you got to do it for everybody. And it was sad, and we got aggravated. And that's Scotty up on a roof fixing some of that wheat. Go ahead. There's the dull knife.
Yeah. Peeling potatoes.
And you cut towards yourself. If you try to cut the other way, they'll be like turning the knife around.
And that's us picking rocks out of beans. And that takes a long time. Oh, stop on that one right there. Isn't that good? That's the little girl that had the bucket. And he made up with Ben, didn't she? Yeah, sweet. More rice picking. More bean picking rocks. And those are the meals that we had. we did a gang thing on that. They moved them up to the church from the cook, and they cooked on charcoal grill, not charcoal grills, charcoal over grill things on the outside. And they brought that up, and they had the plates. We fixed the meals, put them on the table. I thought that the people would come and pick up the plates.
Yeah.
Wrong. They were sitting inside the church, and let's see if we got one. There they are. Not a good picture. But we took it to them inside the church. That was after they got a 30-minute sermon, right?
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, at least. So that was one of the things we did. And we rested.
Can I say something else about the meal?
Sure.
We had all, fixed this meal for these people, and, there was enough that they gave us a plate, and none of us were really hungry. So most of us ate about half or even not that much, and there was a bunch of little boys sitting down the hall there from us. So somebody asked if they wanted it. Now this is a plate that we've eaten half of. Like you can imagine having dinner here, you eat half your food, and then you give it to some little kid, and he just thinks that's the greatest thing in the world. He just finished my plate and licked it clean, and they all did that. That's how hungry they were. Now, I can't imagine giving a half-eaten plate of food to somebody here.
Well, we even saw, or someone said they saw a boy sticking chicken bone legs in his pocket to eat later. So.
And it was kind of a controversy that night because the people who were the HMO people said, no, don't give that to them, because they wanted to keep it for the people who had the tickets, on the inside, because you've got all kinds of hungry people. And we said nuts with that. And so we gave her food away, but it's counterculture for us to give away used food. And they just, oh gosh, they just ate it like nobody's business. We painted the inside there. We had to rest a while. That's my grandson. And Charlie, they gave Charlie a hard time for sitting down, but he worked. He worked hard. And we didn't have that listed, but in that same church, they had benches in the offices and in the outside rooms, and we sanded all those off and put a coat of shellac on them, I think it was. Bucket Brigade. That's at the last house, I think. Bucket Brigade. That's a house. That's the one we finished. Yeah. You can see, it's concrete block. And it's got that porch. And then there's 2 more rooms back there. And this is one of the better ones. But the bad news was, if you look across this, right out the front door, that garbage dump, about 10 acres worth, and that stinky creek were right there. But they were thrilled to death to have it. And this is the last day. We had Grassy, I always get the wrong church. Creek. Grassy Creek from over in Pendleton County also were there and staying at the same place. And they had worked on it the first day, and we finished it up. And so they all came out the last day we were there, and we got everybody together and dedicated the house, had prayer and so forth. All right, Ben, you're up.
Okay. Well, we had the staple food, I guess, is beans and rice down there, and for some unknown reason, deep fried chicken leg, and you get to eat that for
Every meal, almost.
Almost.
Okay.
So it became a running joke. You turn it around, it's rice and beans or beans and rice. That's what you get.
That's breakfast.
That's breakfast. That's hard-boiled eggs and fruit and spaghetti.
Have you ever eaten spaghetti for breakfast?
Yeah.
I haven't. Somehow or another, they made it good. I don't know how they did it. But the breakfast, it was good. It's a little blurry, but...
that was my plate one night, so I took a quick picture. The bottom left is plantains, green beans, and chicken leg, and lasagna. The lasagna was good, actually. There's Charlie sitting down again.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Ben came alive over this trip, trust me. That was the upstairs of where we're in one of the complexes. They have the schools and all the other, but they had this dormitory-like thing. and it was connected to their library. And this was a second floor, open air, and they cooked someplace and brought the food there. And this is where we ate breakfast and the evening meal, and it was good and was pleasant, and you know, it was really nice. Dan,
I think that was Friday, right?
I don't know.
It was Friday, I think, and that was just another meal. We had to actually bring our own food that day, but
We ate lunch somewhere, and the sad part about it, one thing that really bothered me, we took our beanie weenies and all that stuff, bumblebees. You ought to try bumblebees. You know what that is? Bumblebees are little canned chicken salad. Great, especially when you're hungry. But anyway, we would go and stop for lunch, but sometimes we'd even leave the site that we're working on so we could hide. And we hid because if you were sitting outside eating, it was like throwing corn to chickens. I mean, they just came everywhere, and you felt bad about eating in front of people that didn't have food. It was bad. All right, Charlie.
All right, I get to talk about the transportation, and we rode around all week in these things called tap-taps. That's them. It's a little bitty pickup truck, and you fold 8 or 10 people in the back, and
you can always fit one more.
yeah, no matter how many was in there, there could always fit one more. And you rode down the road. Transportation in Haiti is, the only word to describe it is chaotic. If you've ever seen a Fast and Furious movie, it's like that, only like a whole lot more intense. Because there's no traffic laws, and in Haiti, size matters.
There was people on top of those buses there.
Yeah, you ride that, there would be a bus, and it would be packed tight with people, and for some reason, chickens were always in there. I don't know if chickens just like to ride buses, I don't know. And there'd be 3 or 4 guys hanging on the back, and maybe 2 or 3 on top.
Yeah.
And they would always stop and pick up somebody else. And like I say, there's no laws. They would go down a road like 25, and they would drive 3 across. And sometimes they'd even all be going the same way. And sometimes they wouldn't. And then for good measure, there'd be a motorcycle or 2 thrown in, either on the side or in the middle of the road driving along with you. And everybody blew their horns constantly, and that's how you communicated when you were driving. And we were going down the road one day, and there was a semi about 6 or 8 cars behind us. He decided he wanted to pass, so he pulls out in whatever the passing lane was.
Oncoming lane.
And it's a hill, and you can't see over the hill, but he just keeps going. And we never saw an explosion, so I guess he made it, but it's just chaotic. And there were people riding motorcycles. There's a picture, I don't know if it's in there, but there's 6 people on one motorcycle. They were going to church. There was 3 kids and 3 adults on a motorcycle. And then, coming into church, there was a man and a woman and a newborn baby on a motorcycle. Now, let that sink in. We have car seats. The lady was sitting on the back of the motorcycle, holding on to nothing but the newborn baby. We saw 2 guys going down the road, and the guy on the back had a big sheet of glass on a motorcycle. Not holding it up this way. He was holding up this way where it catch all the wind. So whatever you saw there was just unbelievable. And we don't have potholes here. We have dimples. They have potholes. A pothole down there, they would put a truck tire in it and then cut a tree down and stick up out of that so that everybody knew that there was this huge pothole there. And if your car broke down on the side of the road, you cut a couple trees down and put down the road from it just to let everybody know that there was a broken down vehicle in that lane. And then there was John's hat. We were going down the road one day, and John's favorite hat blew out of the truck. So the whole country of Haiti came to a stop while he got his hat back. There was a guy who jumped out of a tap-tap in the middle of this traffic, picked up his hat, and then got in the next tap-tap. And I don't think anybody ever slowed down during any of this.
No.
It was just completely going on.
It's like you and I going across the Clay Wade Brayley Bridge at rush hour and stopping and getting out of your car. I couldn't believe it. The guy comes up and gives me my hat, and we got to the next stop. It's crazy. All right, Charlie, it's time.
Yeah, the donkeys. We were going down the road and we saw this donkey swap meet. I guess that's what it was. Lot had a whole bunch of donkeys. So John and I got the idea that after packing all those buckets all the time, we've tried to figure out how many buckets a donkey could pack. So it started out being a donkey ministry, but I think it turned out that we got greedy and we just wanted to corner the market on the donkey industry in Haiti.
Yes, that's it.
So we even came up with a slogan, but I can't say it in church. But we came up, the whole week, we just kind of thought about everything you could do with a donkey down there, to hauling them buckets, to actually standing in line for you at the airport. We figured, you could rent a donkey and it'd stand in line, and when it got to the front, you just come up and take its place. In mine and John's case, they'd have a hard time telling us apart, but, anything.
Anyway, if you want to invest in a donkey cabal in Haiti, you just call us and we'll let you in on it, ground floor. Okay. So the bad part, I guess, about going to Haiti is you're so overwhelmed with poverty. And to be honest, we were mad the first day. We sat and talked. We were aggravated because how can this be? We blamed how can we fix it? We were discouraged. We said, why are we here anyway? We cannot fix this. And it just drives you crazy because you're torn between poverty and misery, and you're supposed to be there to spread the gospel. That's a problem. And so there is some good news because despite that poverty, God's working in Haiti. Haiti Outreach Ministries is the organization there, and they have the gentleman who runs it is a CCU, Kentucky Christian College graduate. He's a native. He's got some kind of connection in the upper echelons, but he's a fundraiser for them, and he has gotten things on the right track. These are the names of 3 churches: City Soleil, Terra Noire, that's where we stayed, and Repatriate. These are 3 compound churches right smack dab in the middle of all that filth and misery, and they do some great things. They have big churches. We'll show you a picture of them in a minute. They average 3,200 people a Sunday in these 3 places. They have elementary schools in each one of these compounds, and they service about 1,500 students P through 10. Remember, there's no education. And they have clinics in these compounds, and they service about 30,000 patients per year. There's no hospital per se. There's no clinic, no doctor you can run down and get your kid's temperature taken. You have to go and stand in line, or every time we went by, there'd be 30 or 40 people sitting in line to get in to see the doctor, to get an aspirin or whatever. Each of those 3 churches, like I mentioned, is a compound. They have the church that seats about 2,000, a good elementary school, a clinic, and a source of fresh water. They have filtered fresh water inside these walls. And when I say walls, the compounds have 20-foot walls with razor wire around the top of them. They have an area maybe as big as our church area in the city of Williamstown in the ballpark out there and back. That's about the average area. And they have a humongous metal door that slides back and forth and closes it off. It's a safe haven. And you go in there, it's a different world. There's your barbed wire wall. And that's what we stayed upstairs, 2nd floor in Terra Noire. And right across the hall, right across that little gravel thing, was the elementary school. Above us was the place to eat. Back this way was a church right there, all of it inside this compound. There's a church, one of them. They're huge. Wooden benches, spotless. The front wall has scripture verses written on them. They've got screens. They've got sound equipment. All of it's barred and locked up. But they're beautiful. And they know how to. All right, will that come through? Okay, forget it. Anyway, that's a video clip of a fella who is doing a communion meditation that went on for 30 minutes. We thought it was a sermon. It was a communion meditation. But, you know, and they have people, I was so impressed the first day, that morning we went with the ladies who were the ushers. They were immaculate. If we take you and put you in a helicopter and drop you inside that compound and you went to church, you would say, there's nothing wrong here. They were gorgeous.
Dressed, very well dressed, very well behaved. You spit your gum out before you went in church. Like I said, they started at the front seating you and went back. And they had a special place for us to sit. They all gave us nice little ribbons to pin on because we were visitors. They recognized us. I mean, it was very, very hospitable.
Okay, I'm getting off track.
Charlie liked the wine.
Well, you know, they got all excited because they had communion, and it was actual wine. I mean, you know, that much. Anyway. Okay, now the children, you want to bring them home. They are beautiful, they're smart, they're lovable. 1 out of 5 of them die before they're age 5. If you went down there, you'd know why. HMO in these schools provide education, food, vocational training, and they are Bible-based education organizations. They teach Jesus and they teach Bible on a regular basis in these schools. Okay, let's go through them. Y'all jump in. I'm talking too much.
This is just at one of the school, at the Repatriate School, and preschool kids, and they were really cute.
We went in and we gave them candy. Gave them a little bookmark, which, you know, everybody, kids nowadays would say, eh. We gave them one piece of candy. Our kids would say, where's the rest of the bag? And you'd thought they'd give them $1 million, and they just grinned. All of them have, in each school, they have these uniforms. You know, it's like, what is it, plaid? I don't know what you call that, but it's either blue or red or yellow or something. All of them dressed with the same uniforms. That's when we were giving out stuff. And the classrooms are nice.
Yeah, and when they taught them to read, they also taught them sign language at the same time. So they getting pretty good education. I mean,
Yeah, when we went in, they had a workbook, and the little boy or little girl was up there with the teacher, and she was going down the sight words, and as she pointed to it, they pronounced it, and they signed it, which I thought was pretty cool. I tell you, in the mornings where we stayed at 6:30, was it 6:30?
About 6:30.
About 6:30, they started coming in, and they filled that gravel walkway the way what I showed you a while ago. My goodness, Rover. And they sang. They lined up. You didn't see anybody telling them what to do. They lined up. They sang. They did the pledge, and then they marched in. And when they marched somewhere, you can't see it very well, but they got their hands on the ones in front of them shoulders, and that's how they got from point A to point B. This is a little boy. That's my daughter there, and we're going to talk about this in a second. But you can sponsor a child, and if you sponsor a child, then people who go down there usually take them gifts and get to meet them. And she was meeting the one that she's sponsoring. There's Ben with his entourage. These kids weren't in school. They were out there where we were working. I think that's Ethan. He had his phone, and he was doing that, make people's faces look funny on whatever that app is, and they thought that was the best thing in the world. Okay, how we can help. This is the meat of the whole thing. Pray. You have missionaries come in here and they say pray. Well, trust me, prayer makes a difference, and you need to pray for these people in Haiti. I mean, we worry about Charlie's famous line, I'll never complain about my cable not working. And you don't. But what the deal is, these people don't know where their next meal is coming from. You can go. Sherman is going July 8th and 15th for 1 week at a time. And you can, if you see me or go to the Sherman website, it's shermancoc.org, get all the information. $1,650 worth every nickel of it, and you will be doing what we didn't get to do, is a Bible school in the morning, being with all those great kids, and in the afternoon you would work on a house project. I think that's what they were saying. Okay, go ahead.
If you haven't been on a mission trip, it is worth it just for the fellowship. You can't tell, we had a really good time. I mean, we laughed, we had a blast. And you get to know people a whole lot better than, just, well, I see them in church, but when you get to really know people, it is worth it.
The other thing you can do is sponsor a child through HMM. It's $35 a month, and basically what you do, you pick out a child from their website. I've got it up there next. It's a great website. You can go to it says where it says adopt a child or support a child or something like that. You get pictures of every one of these kids in the primary up through the high school. You can pick them out. They tell you about them. If you do sponsor them, they send you their report cards. You send letters back and forth. And if you write them a letter, they'll interpret it in Creole down there for the kids. If you ever go down there, you get to meet them. They get a Christian education, a hot meal a day, a uniform, and a safe place to be. And you see kids with lunch boxes. You see that all the time. I thought, they bring their lunch. They take the extra food home to their family. That's pretty good. So you can pick a child. I encourage you to look at that website. We'll put it in the bulletin next week for you to be able to pick up on. You can sponsor. A family can do it, like we're going to. A Sunday school class, if you want to do something constructive with that money that you take up and don't use, sponsor a child. Small group, if you want to take that on. Bible school, that'd be something for the Bible school to do in their offerings. But you can do that and sponsor a child, okay. See me, that's HMO, it's HaitiOM.org. I'll put that in the bulletin next week. But those are the ways that we can help, and we surely need to help them. Final thoughts. We've gone over. Hudson's having cardiac arrest back there. Abe?
It was just an overall really good trip, and we enjoyed every minute of it, and we really learned a lot, and we enjoyed being together for a week.
I personally think I grew a lot more in the way I see the world, and it was eye-opening, and it's definitely different.
Pretty much just what I said. If you get a chance to go, it's worth it. Just to be thankful for what you have and see what other people don't. Like I said, you feel good after you do it. You really do.
And I guess the one thing that I would say before we turn this over to, he left, Adam, is thank you. And what I saw on that church wall, saved to serve. Saved to serve. These people down there are serving God in the best way they know how, and that's maybe just staying alive. We've got everything in the world here, and we need to realize our obligation past just coming to church. It's basically what we've been saying for the last 2 or 3 weeks here. We need to learn to serve, and he's had a list come around. That's a good place to start. The other places are outside of the church. That's what the Haiti mission's about. I encourage you, Scott, you don't have to worry about anything. My son-in-law takes care of it. You can go on a mission trip, you just go and go with the flow and figure something's going to screw up. But you ought to go. You ought to go. And it's a week that you'll never forget, and a week that'll help you and it'll help them. It helps us really more than it helps them. Thank you all for your attention. I'm sorry we went over, but we had to.